All right, this is the program this morning on ITV. Like I told you earlier, we shall be looking at issues regarding the preparation for the forthcoming general elections, especially the presidential elections holding in the next 10 days as of 25th of February 2023. All efforts to ensure that we have a very peaceful conduct has been assured by the umpire and other stakeholders involved in preparation for this election. But we shall be looking at it from the other angle of how can we actually maintain peace? How do we ensure that people's confidence are built towards the election? Because we've had issues where some persons are already saying they are not really sure if the election will hold, despite assurance by INEC. As at yesterday, INEC was still assuring Nigeria that the election will hold. Nothing will make them change the date from 25th of February. So we have in the studio this morning KAYODE BOLAJI is the Executive Director of Peace Building Development Council. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Our Juliet Dandu is still here. We'll be doing this together this morning. But let's begin with let's just do an overview of INEC's preparation so far, looking at what's having put on the ground 10 days to the election. What's your assessment? Do you really think, are you on the side of INEC that we are ready for the conduct of the election? Or what's your take on general preparation less than 10 days?
I think we all have to be on the side of INEC, even if it's just encouragement. Certainly the preparation for this election is better than that of the 2019 and 2015. So there's a progression in terms of the readiness for the INEC and other organization. Although I figure some lapses, but again, we all have to be on the side of INEC. I feel, relating to what we were talking about this morning, I feel there are a lot of agencies that are not used in the build-up to this election.
Well, before we go to the agencies, I would like you to clarify, because you said prior to this election, this one should be high commended in terms of preparation. So what are the differences compared to the former elections?
Oh yeah, so for example, in terms of voter registration, we have a higher number than that of last election. They started early. They've been able to build confidence in the citizens that they're ready with the election in Ekiti and Osun. And also the communication with people, almost on a weekly basis in the last 2-3 years, from INEC. And there's been some kind of synergy, especially from the civil society organizations. When you see CSOs coming out publicly and giving support to any government agency, then you know that that government agency has been consulting widely. So they have been able to build confidence. So in that regard, I think they should be commended.
So you were saying something that's...
Yeah, so I was just relating to, getting anything done. Sometimes you feel you have the capacity. But if you don't... let me just mention the National Orientation Agency, for example. I think sometimes we all need to know the capacity that we have, either as civil society organization, either as government agency, either as security agencies, or even the president. We all need to know our limitation. We need to know what we can do and what we cannot do. I've had reasons to consult with some government agencies, especially soft power agencies. Our country has been through a lot, and I'm not in a position to condemn, or I always, because of my background as a peace practitioner, I'm moved towards commending and looking for ways to resolve conflicts. But that said, I feel we're not maximizing the potentials in a lot of agencies, even the university system. Even traditional institutions, they would have helped INEC if they are consulted widely. There's a way you can sensitize people. There's a way you can alert people when you sense that there's going to be a problem in the future. For example, places that are still tensed, you know, I won't be surprised. Few days to the election, I mean, INEC already said 200 places there won't be election, and more may come because there's something called early warning signals, you know, and that's you can only get from people who are close or closer to where such event is happening. So those are just some of the lapses, because I sense INEC is doing the sensitization alone. They are not that big, even though they are everywhere. There are other agencies of government that have been mandated to do that kind of work. You know, I mean, that's why I mentioned NOA, not for anything particular, but they are everywhere. They are in every local government, they are in every ward, and they are government agencies paid by government, so they should be allowed to work. You don't need to pay other people to do what somebody else is paid to do. Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution is another one. When you are doing your mapping, there's something we call conflict sensitivity. You need agencies like that to tell you how to approach some communities, especially in the Northeast, where communities where violence have ravaged such areas. You need agencies that are professionals in dealing with such. So I feel the same thing with Human Rights Commission. There are several of them I can mention.
Okay, looking at security, in your own view, security-wise, are we ready?
I don't think Nigeria can ever be ready security-wise, because I don't even understand. I don't think we understand what it is. I've had the privilege of working in more than 40 countries and serving with some leaders of governments in different countries that have taken the issue of peace very seriously. I don't think we have done that. I mean, South Africa is still suffering from apartheid. South Africa is still suffering, and they are taking it seriously. They have several centers that deal with the issues of healing of memories. I mean, for our country, we experience violence on a daily basis. If I'm to talk as a peace practitioner, there's something we call cycle of violence or cycle of revenge. So if you multiply violence, you are also multiplying the opportunities for revenge. And if you don't deal with violence, it makes the future looks bleak, because several people are angry, and the process to even deal with such anger is not there in the first place. So our security challenges are multifaceted. They are everywhere. So you're not just talking about issues around food security, economic security. We are even talking about hard security. You know, in a situation where people have guns to defend themselves and also to cause havoc. That's, you cannot say it's a country that is prepared for anything peaceful. So, and the way we are also approaching it, you cannot use violence to deal with violence. It will just multiply. And so in that case, that's why I was mentioning soft power agencies. INEC need to consult with agencies that their own agenda is just to beg people to be peaceful.
Now let's look at political parties in terms of promoting peace in the society and what their roles constitute. For instance, we know now their campaigns are ongoing. We'll be hearing hate speeches, and we'll be hearing words that I'm not too familiar with when it comes to electionary campaigns because of the parties involved this time. The heavyweights, if you look at the three major parties and if you listen to their spokesmen speak recently, you understand that it is no longer issue-based. It is more or less like attacking individuals. Now, what does this do to the electorate in terms of ensuring that people do what is right? Because if, for instance, I'm telling you that I'm the best candidate and this person is sick, you shouldn't vote this person. And you know this particular political party is from this region of the country where we're already having tens of issues of insecurity like you mentioned. How do we begin to hold these political parties accountable to ensure that they promote peace going forward in this election?
Again, that's why I think that we need to involve a lot of agencies in the preparation towards election. I think we all know that the country moves towards all kinds of vices, you know, in the area of ethno-religious crisis. People move, you know, people don't vote based on issues. People don't vote based on capacity. And it seems like if you don't apply violence, people will not even respect you. That's the country that we live in. You know, it's almost like you cannot trust somebody that is not violent to lead you. And that's why I believe some people will be struggling as presidential candidates or governorship candidates to win an election in a place like Nigeria, because you cannot be soft-spoken, you cannot be brilliant. It's not enough. You cannot be you cannot know what you're doing, you know, in terms of you have the capacity to solve the economic problem of Nigeria. It's just not enough in a country like Nigeria. And that's where the screening processes for people that are, you know, are to aspire for such positions in Nigeria should be taken seriously. Because if we are going to move from point A to point B, it has to be a whole of society approach. Like again, to be on the positive side, we all have to work together. You know, in 2015 and 2019, there was a structure that was created, you know, from civil society and the police and the NSA's office called 2015 Violence-Free 2015 general election. So I was the secretary of that committee, both 2015 and 2019. And basically what we did was to go around the country and just beg people. You know, it's difficult to measure peace. So when people call themselves peace practitioner, you won't see them all the time on the news, you know, on TV saying we've done this, because you cannot measure peace. You can measure violence. You can't measure peace because it's long, it can be tiring, and it's not something it's not an event. It's not something that you see the results immediately. The reason why I'm saying this is that there is always a need for a country like this to find organizations that can really touch the heart of people. Our religious institution and organizations should be at the forefront. But even at that level, there's so many contradictions and confusion, you know, whether it's Christianity or Islam, because there is no unity even at that level. So politics is used, politics will use religion anytime to instigate selfish agendas.
But we've seen political parties sign peace accord towards conduct of elections, and at the end we've not really seen any positive results from that. Is it that there's no sincerity inside of these leaders?
The people signing the peace accords are not the one causing, but they are the ones instigating the violence, but they are not the violent people.
I don't understand. If you have followers, you should be able to talk to your followers.
Well, they enjoy the violence, but they will not be seen at the venue of violence.
So are you saying now they advise their followers to embark on that?
So there are several ways of instigating violence. There are several actions. You don't have to say it.
Yes.
You know, you just have to, you know, you have to show it, and then people already know what you
move into.
That's why I said, and it's not even it can't be the fault of anyone in this case, but it's something that is already part of our country that we need to deal with. That's why I said earlier on, I said violence is becoming part of our narrative. It's sad, because if we continue like this, it may take as an expert, I was invited by an international organization to measure the level of reconstruction going on in Burma 3 years ago. You know, that was even when the military cleared it. Of course, it has returned back. And my assessment was that it was going to take 50 years to actually return Burma to its original situation. Now I don't know, because there's so many things you actually put, you know, we call it PMESII. You know, when a security agency, or when you invite security agencies to deal with issue, it's not just about dealing with that issue, it's about returning that place to it's replacement. You know, it's so this is how ITV was before I came, and now there's violence. So if you invite me as a security expert or a peace expert, my goal is to deal with that problem and to return it the way it was. You understand? So when security agencies deal with issues, they just leave it like that. You have actually done maybe 10% of the work, because reconstruction is more difficult. It's more difficult. It means you have to return the IDPs. It means you have to make them believe that the place is safe. It means you have to provide all kinds of things. It means their history have to be returned. So many things involved. So in that case, I mean, if we talk towards that line, I would be a bit scared for Nigeria, and I won't want to even publicly say the things I think about Nigeria.
Well, if you decide that we're not going to say things you think about Nigeria, it means we're not ready to provide solutions.
No, I can suggest solutions, but I also don't want to instill fear.
Okay, now looking at your...
You understand what I mean? I don't want to... No, I mean, you will hear this from anybody that is an expert, because there are some things you can talk in a boardroom. There are some things you can talk...
Right, let's look at these areas you mentioned now, Burma, for instance, and the rest of it. We just earlier you talked about the 240 polling units where elections might not hold according to INEC. Now, in the process of reconciliation and peace building, what's your assessment of the people? Do you see them ready to go back to their original inhabitants, maybe to participate in this forthcoming election?
I believe so.
The healing process.
I believe it's the desire. Even people that are our citizens that are abroad, everybody wants to come back to their original place. There's just something different about where you grew up, where you're used to. So in terms of being desirous, yes, I believe everyone will want to come back. But is the place safe? Can somebody say to those people that yes, it is safe? I mean, I'm not talking about political statements. I'm not talking about technically defeated. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, and I believe the effort of every politician or every governor will be to see a peaceful state, to see a peaceful local government, to see, you know, you take for example what is happening in the Northwest, for example, which is also something that is simmering that we need to take very seriously. I mean, we have bandits, you know, removing emirs and putting their own. I mean, how do you unscrew that kind of situation? You know, it basically talks about the lack of power at the local government level. It's governance issue. It's governance issue. Such things will not happen 30, 40 years ago when we were all growing up. I mean, to even hear about kidnapping, it's a community riot. Everybody will fetch that kidnapper and give some kind of social justice. You know, but now they're so emboldened, they have their own territory, because at the local government, governance is absent. So you have more ungovernable spaces because local government chairmen don't have powers. They don't have money, they don't have powers, so they cannot manage their local government, and it goes down like that.
Okay, looking at your responsibility, talking about your office now, and now election is by the corner. What measures in terms of security have you put in place to ensure a violent-free election?
I'm with the civil society organization, so I don't also have a government power to do a lot. What we do most of the time is we partner with government agencies for sensitization and for orientation, and sometimes if there's need for training, we do that. There are several things that we, especially after 2019, I made a decision from some of the things that we've seen in the past two elections, that when somebody is ignorant, is ignorant. You know, I mean, there's nothing you can do to an ignorant person. He doesn't know. So we decided to focus more on training, even if it means appealing to people. You know, just take 1 or 2 day training. You know, because that's the only way you can spread the message. You know, so that's one of the things that we focus on as an organization, and we've partnered with security agencies, intergovernmental agencies, other NGOs, you know, and we've done that across the Federation. And currently, you will notice even the National Peace Committee is not as effective as previously, because there's a way you assess support from a government that is willing to do something in a particular way. You know, so we all have to find a way. So we are doing our own bits creatively, you know, as we're allowed to do it.
So while we praise your own side, earlier on you said INEC is not really engaging those agencies. There was a term you used for them, and we know the society has a role to play, especially individuals. Now, how do we play a part while we expect government to do its own? Because we cannot all the time put the blames on the government, The individuals themselves, who these laws have been made for, or these elections and all that have been organized, they are the ones that will go out there to vote. So what role does the society has to play in ensuring that we have a peaceful conduct this year? What should they be doing? How should they hold their leaders accountable? Because if they don't hold their leaders accountable, next time you see the same process, what's happening now might still repeat itself.
You know, one of the things that social media has done, even though it has caused a lot of havoc, is that it has also shared a lot of information. The responsibility for peace is everyone's responsibility, both the government and the citizens. And to
I'll just hold your thoughts there. We'll go on the quick commercial break, and when we return, we'll go ahead and register. All right, it's still the program this morning on ITA. I will still have in the studio KAYODE BOLAJI, the Executive Director of Peace Building and Development Consult. Earlier, he was talking about the role of society, and he was looking at the impact of the social media. But I want you to continue from here.
Oh yeah, the social media, I think to some extent have also spread some good news. I see, I mean, the answers at the beginning show that we have responsible youths, you know. I mean, they were able to conduct themselves properly until, of course, towards the end when it became a little bit absurd. I believe we have more responsible youths. Of course, a lot of things can affect the way citizens behave. You know, poor governance, of course, injustice. You know, and what I said earlier, the cycle of violence, you know, the cycle of revenge. You know, so sometimes some people will start a beautiful event, but people have trauma within them. Not something they are willing to do, but it's just a reaction. You know, and it's called it's transferred because maybe somebody else offended you, but you're transferring the aggression on another episode because that's just the only opportunity you have to address such trauma. That's why it's important. That's why I said violence, it's easy, but peace building is hard. Everybody involved in violence needs to be treated on a one-on-one basis. You know, whether it is at a primary level or at a secondary level. And that's we will just really have to appeal to security agencies to encourage more soft power approach to dealing with our issues.
Well, you're talking about soft power approach, and you said violence is one and good Nigerians really understand.
Yeah.
So how do you think that security is? Because, for instance, the Nigerian police, I know they have units where they try to train people on how to be more use kinetic method, just like you have in the Army Resource Center. How to use kinetic method, non-kinetic method to handle issues of insecurity. It's not all about the guns and enforcement at all time. Preaching peace and unity. Now, going forward, I want you to provide solutions to some of these challenges that you've raised because of our discussion, so that we'll have a peaceful transition into the next government?
I have a feeling that the election will be peaceful, though. I have a feeling that we all know what it will cost us if we move towards a violent election. I want to think like that. For security agencies and government in particular, is to also move towards that direction. Yeah, there might be some pockets of instigation. Don't approach it too much with violence, so that it can create some kind of ripple effect across the federation, that everybody is working towards peace. So non-violence, I will go for it anytime. You said there are some units in the police that are preaching that. It's true. Even in the military, the police, most agencies are moving towards that, And we just need to continue and look for a creativity. When you say non-violence, it's not usually only about preaching peace. Intelligence is the most important part of non-violence. The reason why we react with hard power method is because of lack of intelligence. If you know something is going to happen, you have your early warning signal, you have your intelligence, it's easier to nip that in the bud before it escalates. So if something is building up, you go there, you deal with it at that level. Nobody needs to know that something like that is happening, But when it escalates, it's when you're now forced to use violence, because there might be civilians involved. There might be some of those bandits or kidnappers may be hiding among civilian populace, and all those kind of things. So intelligence is very important. Defense system, cyber security, tactics. A lot of things are involved in non-kinetic. It's not just about preaching peace. So many other dimensions.
Once upon a time, Nigeria is known to be a peaceful nation. Somehow we missed it. How did we get here? What is the way out? Where do we start this reconciliation process from, in order to at least, if not 100%, get it right to some level, in order to make a very friendly environment for the upcoming ones?
That's a good question. I think the return to democracy, and our early politicians were looking for a very easy way for popularity. So they tampered on our already existing fracture, which is religion and also ethnicity. So they started using that for a cheap popularity, and we've not been able to recover from it. I give you an example. There's hardly any politician that will campaign without using religion and regions or ethnicity. Most of the time they are not issue based, and it's unfortunate because it only makes us, it only expand that wound that we are trying to heal. Now the solution is that we have to heal the wound. We have to heal that wound. What do I mean by that? And several people have recommended, like the conference, the national conference was a very good example. In fact, I was at a meeting last week with some eminent Nigerians, and some international donor agencies who are asking, how do you want us to help you? And some Nigerians say, well, we don't even need you. Yeah, that's how frank some people are. They say, we don't need you, that's one. But if you're going to help us, it has to be on our own terms. Because a lot of engagement is affecting the prosperity and unity of Nigeria. It's both external and internal. I mean, do you know what a united, powerful Nigeria will mean in the sub-region of Africa, or in Africa, or even in the world? So I just mentioned that to say there are also external factors who would not want that unity to happen. So it's now left for us to heal the wound for ourselves and to look inward for that strength that we are missing. You know, because our diversity is supposed to bring us together if we can see it from that angle. So whether you're from the north, in fact, one of the things that we started doing in our organization is forgiveness. I mean, we've looked at it, we've done the research back and forth, and we said, I think the best thing we need to start talking about in Nigeria is forgiveness. Because at some point, we all have our stories, and we've all done something bad and something good. We can build on the good that we've done. We can repent of the bad that we're doing, and we can seek forgiveness for people, you know, we've wronged. And if those people that have wronged us can also do that, it may be a beautiful way to start. Although some people will say forgiveness is at the religious angle, but I think it's high time we bring it to the social angle also. It's not just a religious concept. If it's something that can work somewhere, it should be able to work everywhere.
Thank you so much for your time. But I won't let you go just like that, because there are other issues that I don't know. We talked about forgiveness. So many Nigerians tell me to forgive the central bank government. It's happening now because in our homes there is disunity in some families because of lack of
cash.
I don't know whether you have anything to say on that before we just.
I've not even seen cash in the last 3 weeks.
So are you calling for more extension?
No, it's you know, the thing is that like they say, it's the elite that is actually killing Nigerians. There are some people who will never need cash to do anything. You know, so for them, they don't feel the pain that ordinary Nigerians
so
are
that's what I
feeling.
was asking. Now that we're having issues in the home front because of that, how do we now console ourselves in terms of let there be peace in the home in terms of this?
Yeah, you've answered the question. We have to console ourselves because that regard is only government that can make it happen.
I must thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
For KAYODE, BOLAJI, the Executive Director of Peace, our Building Development Council. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a wonderful moment with you. We look forward to having you once again.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we return the program this morning on IT, we'll continue.